If you're just joining us, Carlos Correa is sort of maybe a Minnesota Twin, like we've learned now. When the Passan or Heyman bomb comes out about Correa, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play for that team. This is the third breaking contract report for Carlos Correa in the last month.
Yeah, crazy.
And so we'll see if this one gets past that whole pending physical thing. But Carlos Correa and the Twins, 6-year deal, $200 million, vesting option that can max out at $270 million. I have questions.
Yeah?
I have questions.
Good, I've got answers.
What are your answers?
My
Should
answers
we play
are...
Jeopardy and you give me the answer first?
Sure, the answer is Farhan on the hot seat.
What some Giants fans will say?
Without a doubt. If he signs a 6-year deal with Minnesota, the biggest question I have is, why couldn't you, Giants, have signed a 6-year deal?
And that is one of the questions. However, I have further questions beyond that. Did you even want to still sign Carlos Correa to any deal? I don't know that. Did Carlos Correa and Scott Boras take your phone calls? Or were they hurt and upset over what happened to the
First
point?
question first, second question second. The answer for me to the first question is, you had better be interested in that because you offered the guy a 13-year deal.
Right.
You looked at the scan. You definitely looked at the scan before you offered him a 13-year deal.
No.
If you didn't know anything about his medical, if you didn't know anything about his past medical history and you offered him a 13-year deal, then that is gross negligence, in my opinion.
They looked at that, and then there's a new one. You understand the order of this, right?
I understand.
You get all the medicals, and then you're
but let me
convinced
ask you
that
this.
it's okay, and then you do a scan that was 24 hours before the press conference, and something spooked him.
Right. So the medical from when he was 18, and he had this procedure.
No, but something clearly new has come up.
But I don't understand what could be new when you look at the year he's coming off of. So he had the year that he had, not a monster year, but a damn good year, a good enough year to where he's been coveted by multiple teams, and now all of a sudden something pops up in the offseason?
I guess so.
I mean, what could that be?
I have no idea, and unfortunately that's the question they can't answer, but I think it is very important for a frustrated Giants fan, me too, important to remember. The Mets didn't want to sign this deal either. Whatever they saw,
12 years, yeah.
They didn't want to do 6 and 200, or else they would have. You're not going back.
Well, you don't know that they had a chance to do that. Maybe Scott Boras turned and ran from them, he turned and ran from the Giants.
Maybe, except for if I'm Carlos Correa, you're going to tell me that I'd rather take $200 million in Minneapolis over San Francisco and New York? I don't think so.
Well, you'd rather take $200 million.
Yes.
You'd rather take 13 years and what the Giants offer.
Sure. So I guess my point is that I think it's reasonable to assume that this deal that he signed with Minnesota, New York and San Francisco would not match. They would not do that deal.
Or they didn't get an opportunity to match.
So, yeah, the questions that are in my head, and unfortunately, the only answer that I'm willing to give is, I don't know. I don't know if Carlos and Correa and Scott Boras were upset at these teams and therefore said, we're not even taking their calls. I kind of doubt that. That's not the way an agent works. Like, you're trying to get the biggest dollar amount. So check your feelings at the door, I would think.
Maybe, but Correa got embarrassed by the Giants.
No doubt.
His entire family got embarrassed by Farhan Zaidi and the Giants.
Right. Plus, he immediately, within 4 hours, had a very awesome other option in Market 1. So I understand that. This was different, though. Now you're ending up, granted, you played there already for a year, but you're ending up back in Middle America now, the Bold North, okay? And that's very different than New York. But
the AAV is greater than the market that you were going to play in.
No doubt. So, I again, it looks to me like it's reasonable to assume these two other teams would not do that deal. So he ends up back in Minnesota. Is it that Correa and Boras did not want to deal anymore with the Mets and the Giants? Or did the Giants and the Mets, whatever the hell spooked them on that scan, whatever that is, did they not want to deal with Correa? I don't know. I mean,
what they see on the scan is such to where, we don't even want to do a 6-year deal. We won't even sign this guy for an hour.
Maybe they'd sign him for an hour. They'd sign him for, I guarantee you, a guy coming off an injury for a 1-year deal, Farhan would salivate.
True.
Right.
He would have, been rushing to sign him. And this guy's not coming off an injury. He's coming off a very healthy year where he was a borderline all-star.
But we don't know.
But he's not coming off an injury. We do know that.
Maybe he is. Maybe he got hurt in the offseason. I don't know.
Washing his truck.
Hey, thank you. It's happened. I don't know.
Motorbike accident.
And the super, super frustrating part for everyone will be, we never will. We're never going to know
we'll know.
No, we
won't. If he plays 6 years and he's healthy and he continues his Hall of Fame track, we'll know.
Still not going to tell us what was on that damn scan.
Well, what we'll know is that the Giants screwed it up. If he comes out and has 6 monster years.
A lot of people think that already. But
then it doesn't matter what's on the scan. You want to know what's on my scan?
What's on your scan?
It's not pretty, bro.
Well,
it's not pretty.
Listen, if this
I got screws in the shoulder and I got plates in the knee.
Right, and how you doing?
I'm not getting 13 years. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. You're barely, sometimes after our segments, you and I can't even get over to the bathroom without limping, okay?
I broke my finger opening a door on Saturday.
So look, the bottom line is this. The frustration's not going away. However, on the flip side, there's no denying, no matter how mad you are and no matter how much the word Farhan triggers you, there's no denying that what the Mets just did helps the Giants. That is what's called corroboration in these proceedings.
Well, I disagree because they're corroborating a failure. If Correa goes out and has 10 monster years in a row.
Well, yes, then they both failed.
Exactly.
Then they both failed. Then
so it's not corroboration.
No, but it is.
It's condemnation.
No, but it is corroboration based on what we said within that moment, which was, the Giants are risk averse and they're just weenies and all of this stuff. Like the Mets looked at a damn scan. And by the way, the Mets have now let him go in a spot where there could end up being a grievance. Do y'all understand that? There very, very likely, I think, will be a Major League Baseball Players Association grievance because of what Steve Cohen said publicly. He stated the day after the signing, watch the way the Giants and most teams work. You'll see Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, or John Heyman send out a tweet, and you'll hear crickets from the team. They're not going to say publicly that we signed anyone. All they did was reach an agreement in principle. And there's a reason you don't say anything publicly, because Steve Cohen, the very next morning, publicly stated, we needed one more thing. I like our pitching staff, but we needed one more thing. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but this was essentially
he said, quote, puts us over the top.
This puts us over the top. We needed one more hitter on offense, and this was it. Now, he doesn't use the word Correa, but he's clearly indicating that he's talking about Correa. And when you do that publicly and say that and then don't do a deal, you are totally open for a grievance filing by the Players Association that could cost you millions and millions of dollars. And I would predict that sometime here in the next few months, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Well, if you file a grievance, then the medicals are going to have to be made public because that becomes a part of the reason why the Mets backed away from the deal. So I don't think if you go to a court of law in this case that you can protect whatever on the scan. This scan is maybe the most controversial X-ray or MRI scan that we've ever talked about in sports.
Yeah, this is the biggest QR code I've ever seen.
Seriously,
man,
what's on that scan?
I don't want to pull up this menu. Woo, the prices are expensive.
Well, the price going down, although the average annual value is going up. But if Minnesota's able to get him for just 6 years and $200 million,
sounds great. It sounds great.
It sounds great, and it probably will be great.
Maybe.
This is not a player who's been hurt of late.
Oh.
Everyone's spooked by something on the scan, and I would imagine that whatever's on the scan is not a concern for this year. If it was a concern about this year,
probably true.
The Mets wouldn't have gone 12 years, and the Twins, coming off of the year that they just had, wouldn't be spooked to give him 6 years.
I agree with all that. But here's the hard part is I guess we're not going to know if the Giants and the Mets were right for like 3 or 4 years.
Or longer, yeah.
Or longer. And, by the way, if things don't change with the way the Giants are doing their business, you 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, you're not going to have those guys to kick around anyway because they probably won't be
1 year from now.
Yeah.
Mark. 1 year from now. If the Giants go 72 and 90 with no pop and no sizzle, Farhan Zaidi will not be here in 2024.
Want to bet?
If they go 72-90, I will make that bet.
Yeah, which, by the way, I would doubt they go 72-90, but we'll see.
For the sake of this discussion, that's what I'm proposing. Yeah. A bad year. I mean, if they go another flaccid 81-81, maybe he keeps his gig. Oh, look at Matos. He really flashed in August.
Who knows? I mean, what if Kyle Harrison comes up and wins Rookie of the Year? What happens then?
Well,
listen, you're playing hypotheticals. Yeah. Why can't I?
No, you can.
Okay.
If he comes up and he gets Rookie of the Year and they go 72-90,
brother,
maybe he keeps his job.
If the 49ers have taught us anything, it's that we cannot sit here before a year and let me tell you what's going to happen. We got no damn idea what's about to unfold. If I had told you what is now reality, if I had said this before the year, you'd have suspended me for a week. You would have suspended me for a week.
So here's what's going to happen. Brock Purdy's going to come on.
Exactly.
Back when Nathan Peterman was still the 3, and Brock Purdy we didn't even talk about Brock Purdy.
Kruger's running around last summer going, Brock Purdy, and we're all like, Larry, just shut up for a second, will you please? Let's have a reality conversation. And now here we are. The guy
is he driving the Brock Purdy train?
He was. Actually, give Larry a little credit because he's not doing as much of a victory lap as he could have. Because he was in training camp. He's like, that's the guy. That's the guy. He goes, I like that guy. Of all 3 of them, I like that guy. And we were like, you're weird. You're a very, very weird human being. And look at him now. The guy is second in the odds to win Rookie of the Year, and he's only played 6 games.
Wow, he's second in the odds right now?
Second in the odds behind the running back we're going to watch this weekend, Kenneth Walker. So, listen, I don't know what the hell's about to unfold, but I do know this. This was a frustrating process, but the Mets did the exact same thing once they looked at whatever they saw, and these 2 major market teams who both showed up probably more so than any other teams in all of baseball, sort of swashbuckling in like, we're about to spend a whole lot of money. And they both walked in, they both looked at that scan, and they both said, we don't even want to do half of what we actually originally offered. That's got to be worth something.
It's worth a little bit, but the big difference is
on that scan.
The big difference is the Mets still swashbuckle their way into spring training with all of these massive pieces, and the Giants limp in with,
no doubt.
Hey, Michael Conforto. Oh, I know he didn't play, but darn it, he's ready to bounce back. And Mitch Haniger, well, we know he was hurt, and he had a down year, but you know what? We got faith in Mitch. And Sean Manaea, no. Don't look at his 5.1 ERA. That's not who he really is. Nope. He's a darn good pitcher. And you know what? Ross Stripling, he's going to be, he's going to be great. And don't forget, we still have DeSclafani.
You take it easy on Ross Stripling. He was the MVP. He was the MVP of the 12 days of Bay Sportsmas song that was unveiled over the holidays.
I heard it.
Ross Stripling. It wouldn't have been the same without
Striplings.
5 Ross Striplings. Exactly. So you be nice to him.
That's big.
All right.
That's big. Did Sean Manaea make the song?
You're not gonna get me to not agree with you that this was a terrible offseason. It's a terrible offseason.
But in terms of swashbuckling, the Mets still stroll into March with a lot.
When the Correa deal, the original agreement was reached, the first one, the Giants
13 years.
Remember that week where the Giants and Mets were 1-2 in terms of offseason spending? They were 1-2. So they were the 2 spendingest teams.
Where are the Giants now?
Yeah. Well, actually still in the top 10, believe it or not. But you're not going to get me to disagree with you on this.
You were peacocking big time when they signed Carlos Correa, when they came close to signing.
Yeah, because the argument for 5 years has been, would Farhan ever even think about doing something like this?
Right.
The answer is yeah. Yeah.
Well, the answer is no.
Well, it went the way
he
it went.
thought about it, and then...
Mama, there goes that scan. All right, there it is.
That's a 4.
For Carlos Correa.
This is 4 for your Mark Jackson.